All right, this is Arab Talk on KPOO San Francisco, 89.5 FM. This is Arab Talk with Jason Jamal. I'm Jess Nam.
And this is Jamal Dejani.
Jamal, we have a really great show as usual today, but we have a lot of topics that we're going to discuss.
And I'd like to start with at least some happy news for our listeners, because
I'm not sure it's happy news yet.
Well, I think it's big news. So that's why, I want to start with this, and then we'll go to the other different topics. As the title of our show, just the big news, and this happened only on Wednesday. U.S. District Judge Anthony Trenga ruled that the federal government's watch list of known or suspected terrorists is unconstitutional. The list, which contains over 1 million people, 1 million people are on that list, was challenged by CAIR, and CAIR, is the Council on American Islamic Relations, and 23 American citizens who said that they were wrongly placed on that list, right?
Right.
So the judge, Judge Trenga, ruled that the terrorist screening database and TSDB, known colloquially as the terrorist watch list, violated due process because there was no clear standard for people to be included or removed from the list. The list is distributed throughout the U.S. government and police agencies and sent even to foreign governments. Once you're on that list, and I couldn't believe the number, actually, that you have 1 million people on that list. So I'm just quoting from what the judge wrote in his ruling. He said that there is no evidence or contention that any of these plaintiffs satisfy the definition of a known terrorist. The judge also wrote that non-dangerous conduct could land someone on the list. So I believe, starting, like I said, this is a big story and big news that CAIR was able, the organization, along with the other plaintiffs, to win this case, to have this ruling. But we have to make a little bit of distinction, because I was initially thought, oh, this is great.
It's not.
Well, you're always
it's not that great.
Pessimist.
I'm sorry.
I'm looking at the cup half full versus half empty.
Well, let's talk about the half.
The half full,
and then we'll go to the half empty.
You have a major ruling that this judge ruled that this list is unconstitutional. We're talking about all these people now have the right to have their names removed if the ruling holds. Now, what you're talking about, not to get confused with, is the no-fly list.
That's right.
So people have to know, what's this list? This list means, what this list means is that the government just they deem John Doe as a person of interest or as a suspect. Right?
And they can put them on the no-fly list.
Well, initially they put you on this list, so which means, and most of the time you don't know about it, right? So your name,
you just show up at the airport, and they don't let you
You're on that list because you are a person of interest to some federal agency. And so they have 1 million names, and many of them are U.S. citizens, others could be green card holders, could be visitors, tourists in this country, and so on, which basically gives a blanket carte blanche for federal agencies to listen to your conversation, to tap into your emails, text messages, even listen to you in your house, trail you, all kinds of things, right? That's all covered under the Patriot Act, giving the federal government a blank. And the other thing is, you're not granted due process. In other words, you're not served with a warrant. There is no warrant to initiate this.
There's no transparency in the process.
There's no transparency. And then most people don't know that this is going on. And this is where the distinction, and I think this is a first step.
Yes.
To remove people's names from the no-flight list. So initially, in this big data bank of information about 1 million people, I have to read through the whole thing. And by the way, at some point, we'll have CARE's executive director. This ruling came yesterday, so it was too late for our
she's very
show.
busy, yeah.
And she has been a guest on our show many times, Zahra Billo, and she'll explain it better than us. But I was like, okay, how many of these 1 million are U.S. citizens versus green card holders versus just tourists and whatever, other nationalities?
Well,
Because that will be big if you find out like most of them are U.S. citizens and the government is violating their First Amendment under this Patriot
Sure.
Act and whatever. Because any kind of agency could say, this person is a person of interest, put their name on the list. So most of the people don't know that they're on this list. Now, the other part, which you said this hasn't been taken care of yet, and I think it will be the next step, is most of these people just, the way they find out that they are on this list,
They go to the
airport. They want to fly domestically or
After
internationally.
they bought their ticket.
They buy their ticket. They show up just like regular everyone, like thinking that they're going to go through a routine procedure. And then they go to the airline counter and they say, I'm sorry, you can't board the plane. Why? Oh, your name is on the no-fly list. Now, we've been hearing about this since shortly after, during the Bush administration, shortly after 9/11,
Right.
that you have all these people, and many of those people actually spend tens of thousands of dollars on attorney fees trying to find out initially, like, why is my name on that list? No answer. Then they spend tens of thousands of dollars, and sometimes takes 2 years, and then the government, even in most cases, I haven't actually seen a single case. I just read different things that say, oh, well, there is a similar name. So, like with Arabic names, just like English sounding names, American names, like if your name is John Smith, your name is Muhammad Abdullah or something like this. There is a million of people with
Sure.
this name. So once they put a name that is similar to your name,
You're screwed.
yeah, that's it. You can't board. And I've known people, actually, when I was a commissioner at the Human Rights Commission and the Immigrant Rights Commission, we used to get a lot of complaints. And then these are people who, imagine just they're law-abiding citizens. They had issues because of their name was similar to another so-called terrorist or someone on the watch list. They had to travel to New York via Greyhound. And you know how beautiful is our public transportation system in this country, going on buses all the way from here to New York, for example. Or if we were in Europe, and you had something like the French TGV or, the fast trains, which we don't, then you'd say it's not a big problem. But you can't go these days to, you can't go to Seattle driving a car. Even we fly most of the time to LA rather than drive a car from San Francisco and so forth. So their life basically has been made a misery because of this.
That's right. But, I do want to say that I think this is a good step, and you've done a really great job, Jamal, describing the half-full part of this ruling. Let's talk a little bit about the glass being half empty. For our listeners, we put this in a bit of a context. You alluded to it. After 9/11, Patriot Act is established. It grants the government and the executive branch, Jamal, sweeping powers after 9/11 to basically surveil U.S. citizens to the point that they have no recourse. There was no transparency. There was no right to appeal. 99% of the time, it wasn't even known that you were being on this list and that you were being surveilled. It was basically a blanket surveillance apparatus used by the state, used by the United States and its full power to monitor, control, and in this particular instance, deny people access to flying. Now, what this judge has done has ruled it unconstitutional, which is great. But let's remember a few things. Number one, it will be appealed, 100%, because this was just a circuit court ruling. It'll work its way up to, and it may have to go all the way up to the Supreme Court. So in the meantime, there is a very good chance that the government will put forth, which I think they've already done this, a stay of that ruling, an appeal of it, and will want that the program stay in place until it works its way up the appellate or appeal process. Number two, Jamal, Donald Trump has broad powers as the President of the United States, as the executive, and even with this judge's ruling, will continue to use his office as the chief executive with his, surveillance and national security apparatus to continue 99% of the provisions. So on the one hand, I think this is a great first step. But in reality, what it means for the everyday person, the 1 million people who are on this list, there's still a good chance that you're going to be surveilled. Mm-hmm. There's still a good chance that if you're on this list and you go to the airport, nothing's going to change. You're going to get pulled.
We have a question actually from one of our viewers, and we'll answer it on the air, from Joel Bahu. And he's asking any way to find out if you are on the list.
Well, that's a great question, Joel. As of today, because this is a ruling within the last 24 hours, there's no way you can find out. The national security apparatus is a black hole in terms of accessing this information. And I noticed the judge didn't say in his ruling that all of the data that have been collected on these 1 million individuals needs to be erased or returned. So, and don't get me wrong, Jamal, I think this is a good first step, and we'll get Zahra to come in to kind of explain what CARE's brief was about and everything. But the sad reality for the 1 million people who are on this list is that nothing is going to change for the immediate future. There's a good chance that the government is going to keep all this information. There's a good chance if you're on the list, you're going to stay on the list. And there's a good chance that getting off the list will be just as difficult, if not impossible, as it was.
I think you're absolutely right. I still believe that this was a huge victory.
Potentially.
And there is actually a parallel lawsuit challenging the no-fly
there is.
list.
Yes, there is.
So there is one. And I stand, and I have to correct something that I've said earlier. Actually, the government, and this is based on the lawsuit, which, by the way, we talked about, it's a 1.16 million people were on the TSDB list as of June 2017. These are the figures. And though the majority of the people, or the majority of the watch list, is made up of people not permanently living in the United States, so they could be anywhere in the world.
Yes.
Now we have a figure which is, and maybe they got this information through the lawsuit, that 4,600 U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents are on the list.
That's extraordinary.
So we have about 5,000 U.S. citizens who are on the list, and the rest, I don't know. They're all over the world. As much as I think, people have the right to know about who's on the list or not, I'm more concerned because this is, again, violation of the First Amendment. It takes us back to the McCarthy era and spying on U.S. citizens. Because, as you know, the law here applies differently to people abroad versus U.S. citizens. But nevertheless, 4,000 or 5,000 people, 4,600 people, that's a huge number.
Well, it's a huge number, Jamal, if you're a U.S. citizen, or if you're a permanent resident, or if you have legal status to be in this country, and the government is able to deny you without transparency, and to deny you without due process, and to deny without your knowledge or ability to kind of challenge it, your ability to act freely under the Constitution. It is a gross aberration. And what the government is not telling us, Jamal, is that the no-fly list, let me ask you the question, how many terrorist attacks do you think have been thwarted or stopped because of the no-fly list? I'll tell you,
None. Zero.
Because if there was, do you think we would know about it? Do you think that Donald Trump or even President Obama or the national security apparatus would be celebrating how efficient and effective this procedure, this process, this project has been? It actually is quite an expensive, inefficient way of engaging and protecting the airspace, protecting air flight, protecting people's ability to travel freely in this country. It's a very expensive, in many ways, waste of time. There's other ways to do it, notwithstanding, Jamal, the fact that this judge now believes and has ruled that it may be unconstitutional. Great step. I'm glad we're talking about it. Its impact on day-to-day life, unfortunately, for these million people.
And it's all part and parcel of the Patriot Act,
Right.
Patriot Act 1 and Patriot Act 2. And there are actually a bunch of subcategories of rules and regulations that came out of this, and to just explain to our listeners who are interested in this topic, because we've talked about this before, and we've had incidents where many people whose names were on the no-fly list, and then they were after several thousands of dollars in attorney fees to get that removed with no apology, by the way, no explanation of whatsoever. So just to give our listeners some background, the no-fly list was created and is maintained by the U.S. federal government's Terrorist Screening Center. That's what the TSC, of people who are prohibited from boarding commercial aircraft for travel within or into or out of the United States. The list also has also been used to divert aircraft away from the United States airspace, and that does not have a start or end point destination within the United States. So if you are on the no-fly list
And you fly over the United
you're flying
States.
over, they divert you.
They will divert you.
And the number has been kind of changing throughout the years. It started with 16,000 names, going back, I think, in 2006, and the number has been growing up. And then the list along, there is another thing, which is the second security screening selection, which tags would-be passengers for extra inspection. So for our listeners who are wondering why, when they arrive at the border control and they are sent to a secondary screening,
Yes.
well, their name that goes under the secondary security screening selection, they did not make the no-flight list. Otherwise, let's say you're coming from Europe, you're traveling from Frankfurt. Like, if people who have traveled from Frankfurt, they know very well that if your name is on the no-fly list, tough luck.
You're not coming.
You're not coming. You're not going to board the plane. So that's the kind of like the highest level. The other level, they let you board, but they'll mark your name to go through secondary inspection. So most people think, oh, well, maybe the agent at the border control didn't like the way I looked like, or that's not all true, you know. They've already have your name in their computer to say, send this guy for a secondary screening. And this is known with the initials. And this is something I'm going to share with you because I've traveled a lot. I've heard a lot of people. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? So if you are boarding a plane, Jess, and again, I said this is usually is done at the board of, at the airport where you're boarding.
Right, coming to the United States.
Coming to the United States. And so if you're boarding the plane, look at your boarding pass.
It has a little mark on it.
If you see 4 S's, I'm just saying that. I don't know if they're going to change this after this, but I know. If you see 4 S's,
You're marked.
that's basically say airport security measure. This means secondary security screening selection. That's what the 4 S's stand for.
Right.
So you're going to get stopped. Don't act like you didn't know. Now I told you. Once you see that,
You're going to get stopped.
you're gonna get stopped, and you're gonna have your bag searched again, and you're gonna be asked
For your cell
questions
phone.
like and then exactly. And this kind of a segue, now let's go to the segue because we've talked about this enough about the Palestinian student from Lebanon, which this is another bit of bad news, good news, because I know you like to look at the cup half empty, Jess.
I do.
So I said again earlier, this was a big victory, so I'm looking at it as the cup half full. And then the other thing is we have the Palestinian student from Lebanon who came, how long has it been? About
3
2 weeks?
weeks.
3 weeks ago?
Yeah, 3 weeks.
He's back.
He's in school.
He's back.
He started
He's
Harvard.
enrolled at Harvard. Imagine, Jess. I mean, this kid must be smart, right? I mean, people here, actors and wealthy people, bribe and pay tens of thousands of dollars
This
to
guy
get
didn't do
admitted
it.
to an Ivy League school.
This guy didn't
And
do
this
it.
is at the top of the Ivy League schools. This guy he's a refugee, basically. Palestinian refugee from Lebanon. So think about the selection, and you know how selective Harvard is to kind of select him and to give him a full scholarship. By the way, he has a full scholarship. He's brilliant. He comes to Harvard. He's trying to arrive here 3 weeks before the classes start so he can get familiar with the campus, see his advisors. Guess what? He gets stopped. Maybe he didn't see it, and that's my question, is if he saw the SSSS on his boarding pass. He's taken to the secondary screening for questioning, and they tell him, open all your bags, give us your password for your social media, for your Facebook, Twitter, etc. And then they deny him entry, according to him. And I'm saying, based on some postings that his friends posted on Facebook or what have you that were critical of the government of the United States. Hence, he gets deported.
Okay, now the good news is they let him back in.
Yeah, but they didn't let him back in because they said,
But
we're
here's
sorry, we've made a mistake.
No.
There was an international outcry.
Right.
Harvard intervened, and academics all over the world intervened, everything, right? And then so, I think it was been like just a few days ago, and then we learned that he's back. They've admitted him. I don't know what conditions because I haven't spoken to him, but hopefully we will speak to him at some point. We don't want to interfere. We don't want to make him a smart person, but we'll find out.
We'll find out.
We'll find out what exactly happened.
But can I give you
He's back on campus.
Right.
And this is an example of the abuse. I mean, here you have a brilliant student, which I call a protege, to come from a foreign country to get admitted at an Ivy League school, one of the best in the country, get a full scholarship, and get penalized because what? Because of the First Amendment, which people day in, day out are criticizing the United States, questioning the United States. For goodness sake, we have candidates running for president criticizing the United States and this government.
But they're not Palestinian.
But they are not Palestinians. And then he gets denied entry. He has no criminal history of whatsoever. And now, no apology again.
And there won't be an
It's
apology.
Just like someone worked behind the scenes, and I know this is the influence of Harvard that graduated many of our good senators, including presidents and the Kennedys, and you name it. We can go down the list. Someone, a big shot, or several of those big shots, apparently intervened, and he's back. And I'm thankful. I'm not gonna actually question what happened because I want.
But I am.
I want this young man.
And I'll tell you
I
why.
want this young man to succeed.
But I'll tell you why, Jamal. I'll tell you why that I have concerns. Were it not for the fact that Harvard intervened, let's say this young Palestinian refugee was accepted to a lesser school. Let's say Columbia. That's a joke, by the way. That's a joke against you because you went to Columbia. But you could pick any university.
Are you trying to say that I'm brilliant as
an Ivy League grad? No, what I'm trying to say is that I'm concerned that
Lions.
I'm concerned really that the only reason this young man, this Palestinian refugee, was allowed back into the United States was because of elite power intervening.
It was.
But what about all the other students who get accepted to universities or colleges that are not big names that are denied. No, but let me
we
just
know
say,
there is a major drop in the number
No,
of
but-
foreign students that
but,
we have in this country.
yeah, but I want to tell you that a Pakistani young man 2 days ago, Jamal, was stopped he was admitted also to a university here in the United States. He was stopped because of the 4 S's. He gave up his cell phone and his laptop. There were negative posts on his Facebook feed, and he too was denied. Now, he's not going to Harvard. I'm not sure what school he was supposed to be going to. Maybe we'll find it out before the show ends today. But this is a policy. Just because they let this young Palestinian man in and he started Harvard, which is great, the policy remains, Jamal. It still remains the power of this government to deny people who have valid legal means to enter this country and attend university here, to exercise its state power to deny them entry because of their faith, the country of origin. I mean, Pakistan, Lebanon, majority Muslim countries. This is part of the Trump agenda, Jamal. The Trump Muslim ban.
By the way, Lebanon is not on the ban list,
Okay.
but nevertheless, he's Palestinian. And
Yeah, he's on the barred ethnic group or racial group, whatever group you want to call it. He happens to be Palestinian and a refugee. This glass half empty, Jamal, I'm afraid, is more on the glass half full, is more on the side of the glass half empty, because this policy continues unchallenged. And as I said, were it not for, elite power at Harvard, calling attention to this, there's a good chance that this young man would still be in Lebanon and denied entry into Harvard or whatever other university, he would have gotten into. I think, good news, bad news. I'm still on the side that there's a whole lot of bad news going on with these kinds of events.
You're listening to Arab Talk on KPOO San Francisco 89.5 FM. We also welcome our viewers on Facebook Live. And so I want to switch gears here and catch up with some of the recent news, Jess, and one of your favorite subjects, Jason Greenblatt, and he's one of the architects or one of the designers of Trump's Middle East peace
Jamal,
plan.
The plan of the century,
And
please.
it's the entire. This is the plan of
the Middle East plan of the century.
Deal of the century.
The Kushner, Greenblatt, Trump.
So anyway, he is leaving the administration. This is a big announcement, of course, for those people who don't know Jason Greenblatt. He is also, for many, many years, Donald Trump real estate lawyer.
Attorney, right.
So he's leaving. This is an announcement. Greenblatt has worked closely on the deal of the century and closely with Mr. Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, since early 2017 to design what Mr. Trump has called the ultimate deal or deal of the century. And so their secretive plan has been delayed for several months, and now they've also made another delay saying they're not going to release the details of the deal of the century because they don't want to interfere in the Israeli elections, which they're going to happen on September 17th.
That's coming up. That's a couple of weeks.
Which basically would determine the fate of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who's, as we know, is buddy with President Trump and
Jason Greenblatt
and Jared Kushner. And he brags about when he used to visit the United States, when he wasn't Prime Minister, he used to sleep in Jared Kushner's bed in their house in New Jersey.
I'm not going to comment on this.
I'm not making this up, but this is how close this relationship. So now Greenblatt will remain on the job in the coming few days. But anyway, he pretty much announced the news that
but I have good news.
One of Kushner's advisors,
yes, will be the new
Avi His name is Avi Berkowitz.
Yes, Avi Berkowitz.
He will become more involved. They didn't name him as the replacement yet, but they said he will be more involved in the process. And so will Brian Hook, the State Department Special Representative for Iran. And Mr. Hook has already worked closely on the Israel-Palestinian file, part of this administration. So there is something. I mean, he's one of the architects, and he's leaving.
Well,
So far, and yet we have to kind of hear about this fantastic deal of the century, which one of the main components of this deal, the Palestinians, they're not on board.
Well, I was really surprised and glad to hear about the list of replacements. And it's so delightful to hear, Jamal, that they're involving the Palestinians and other diverse opinions on.
No, I've been too cynical. Let's explain.
Well, my cynicism, Jamal, comes from a number of places. As we've said multiple times on this show, there is no deal of the century. There will be no deal of the century. This deal will not be released ever, because even after Benjamin Netanyahu's election in September 2017, there's no guarantee, number one, he will win. And even if he does win, he will run into the same problem, Jamal, of not being able to form a government. If he's unable to form a government, the whole government collapses again, which is the most likely scenario. And if he's not elected or the government collapses, there will be no deal. Even if he's elected and forms a government, there will be no deal, because the deal is not a deal. The deal does not involve any Palestinians, Jamal. We've said this a million times. They've released half of the deal of the century, which is called the economic plan. But again, what's missing and what they don't want to reveal to anybody is the fact of the political end, which means continuation of the settlements, no resolution of the right of return, no autonomy for Palestinians, no independent Palestinian state, all the things that are 100% deal breakers for the deal of the century. Can we just call this what it is, Jamal? A charade? Is this not a charade? Why is Jason Greenblatt leaving? Let me give you some theories that have been floated out in the press. Friction with Jared Kushner, number one on the list.
That's what I was going to ask you, because
number one,
I was trying to read if they've made any explanation, and they've just had like statements from different people, including, by the way, Benjamin Netanyahu. He was great. We wish him well, blah, blah, blah. It was an honor to work with him. But not a single word about the reasons behind why.
Well, and you notice that
he leaving.
And nothing came from the Kushner office. And if it's not random that the person that's going to take Jason Greenblatt's position is going to be Jared Kushner's right-hand man, Avi Berkowitz. Number two, Jason Greenblatt, for 2 years now, has been making $180,000 a year in his position as special envoy for Donald Trump. And some of the speculation has been on the street that this is a significant loss of income and money for Jason Greenblatt, who has a family that's still living in New York, and he's living in Washington, D.C. So it may be economically driven also. I doubt that's it.
He's a big attorney, right?
Yeah,
real estate, he makes much more than $180K.
Yeah, but he's made his money. He's independently wealthy already, whatever. The most likely scenario is that he himself sees the writing on the wall, clashes with Jared Kushner. It's time for him to go back to New York. The bigger picture, Jamal, is that nothing is going to happen with peace in Palestine. Nothing is going to happen with the deal of the century. The peace plan is dead, with or without Jason Greenblatt.
I think this is the point. Everything else, like I can see, he's leaving for financial reasons. He's not well paid. But I think he's being too smart not to go down with the sinking ship.
Everybody else.
And like everybody else, because the Trump administration's so-called peace plan, deal of the century, whatever you want to call it, is already failing. And he knows it.
Yeah.
And he knows, and he doesn't want to wait to sink with the ship because he knows he's an insider. He knows they have nothing. And maybe he's looking, who knows, everyone has some motives, maybe has political motives in the future or what have you, and he doesn't want to go down in history as a failure. Back in June, if you remember, Kushner unveiled the first economics-focused part of the peace plan at the conference in Bahrain, and they played it, and we heard about it. They pretty much had the whole marching band all singing praises for that economic conference because, after all, Palestinians don't need land. They don't need independence. They just need a couple of dollars, and everybody will be singing kumbaya and holding hands with them. And guess what? They failed. They failed miserably. Even the optics of that conference
were a disaster.
Right. So they tried to put as much as a great look into it, and they said the administration claimed that they will get the Palestinians $50 billion in new investments, and then we read about these investments. Half of them are going to Egypt and Lebanon and what have you. But at the end of the day, the Palestinians will be left with something like $20 billion, which anyway, they're receiving more than this. They received more than this from Japan and the EU and other European countries, and they've already told them. So I'm giving him credit of being smart. I'm not giving him credit for being smart because he actually wasted the taxpayers' money on this nonsense. But I'm giving him credit, personal credit, that he knows what he's doing, and he knows that if he hitches his wagon with Donald Trump and Jared Kushner, they are going to drag him down the gutter with them.
Okay.
And that's why he's jumping ship.
Sure. And there's more evidence for that theory, Jamal, because just in the last month, the number of Republican congresspeople and even senators now who have decided not to run again in 2020 has increased to 20 plus. So you see in the House, at least on the congressional side, the number of Republicans who've said, I'm done, I'm not going to run again for re-election come 2020, has increased during the August break. And what happened during the August break, by the way, these congressional Republicans went back to their home districts and they got an earful from their constituency. They realized that there's no way they're going to get elected. They've decided they're not going to run. Even one of the most senior senators, Senator Sensenbrenner, has decided that he's not going to be running for re-election too. So what you see, Jamal, is that large numbers of Republicans, large numbers of people, there's the list of people who've abandoned the Trump orbit is growing by leaps and bounds. Jason Greenblatt may, in fact, be smart enough to realize, as you said, that the political writing is on the wall. There's no deal. And let me ask you a question, Jamal. If you believed politically and diplomatically you were on the verge of doing a history-altering event, would you leave?
No, because exactly.
After putting 2 years in it?
Look, when they talk about, let's say, so-called successful peace treaties, when you think of Camp David, who do you think of? President Carter,
Anwar
Sadat,
Menachem Begin.
Right. They've actually received the Nobel Peace Prize.
All three of them.
Three of them. So whether you're a critic of this or not, they'll go down in history. This is actually President Carter's biggest achievement.
Right.
And if you're confident, but you're absolutely right. If you're confident, this is like betting on a losing horse. He knew. He's very smart. He's an attorney. He's a real estate attorney. Real estate attorneys also, they're famous for speculating and whatever. He knew, and he knows today, that he had zero chance of advancing the so-called deal of the century 1 inch.
Which means his credibility.
His credibility on the line.
His reputation.
And then guess what? He has more to lose. He's not a billionaire. Yeah, he's well-to-do. He's a well-known attorney.
Right.
He's no Donald Trump. He has a Trump Tower and I don't know what and billions. He's not even Jared Kushner, who can go back to what Daddy left him in investments to manage. He has to go back to his credibility, which is what he has, his latest achievement. And you know something? You're as good as your last act. And if his last act was the sinking ship, which it will be, he didn't want to see his name in writing. So you're 100% correct about this.
And that's, by the way, that's the reason Mattis left his position also as defense secretary. I mean, here you have, a multi-star general who and he's been giving interviews lately. So keeping in line with people jumping ship, General Mattis, has been talking for the first time recently in this last few days.
You know what? But I'm disappointed with him. I mean, he wrote a book. He served Donald Trump, and I understand this whole mentality. Maybe I don't understand it too well, being part of the military and you never criticize the commander-in-chief, but he knows a lot. I mean, he knows why he left, right? And so he goes on these interviews and say, okay, let's hear him out, see.
He won't do it.
He won't do it. He said, well, Donald Trump is a different kind of president. What do you mean he's different? We know that. It's a different kind of president. I'm paraphrasing. But he's not giving you. I mean, so why are you going on these speaking engagements, promoting a
we
book
know why. To make money.
Just to make money, and you
Right.
give me nothing?
Well,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll talk about this later on. So in his mind, I'm not going to criticize a sitting president until the damage is done. We know why.
Right.
We know Afghanistan is one of the reasons, because he knows that this is another losing cause and we are losing soldiers. And actually, just this past week, Americans were killed in Afghanistan.
No, just yesterday.
And so he basically is not happy with the decisions and how this administration, and he's like the Secretary of Defense. It should be his decision. He served in the military and he's not happy, but he's not willing to actually say why. And
Yeah.
for this, I think that's a big mistake.
No, I agree. In fact, Christiane Amanpour asked him directly, why don't you come clean and really tell the American public? If this is a crisis, it's your obligation
Yes.
as a citizen to tell
Yes.
us. And he refused to do
It's
it.
national security,
Right.
and if we are going to be putting national security at risk, you owe the American public, at least the information to say, well, what can we do? What have we been doing wrong, and how can we correct this?
Yeah.
And he's not doing this. You're listening to Arab Talk on KPOO San Francisco, 89.5 FM, and I want to talk a little bit with a few minutes left.
Wait, I have one thing I want to talk about.
Okay.
Just one quick thing. It's related to Mattis and Afghanistan. We have been getting some comments because we tend not to talk about Afghanistan. I want to spend just 2 minutes talking about Afghanistan because
I think it's important.
Well, yeah, there's another deal of the century, Jamal, having to do with the peace plan between the Taliban and the United States. It is on the brink of falling apart after years of negotiation between essentially between the State Department and Donald Trump and the Taliban. In Qatar, by the way, Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, yesterday refused to sign the final deal off at the last minute. So it looks like the second deal of the century having to do with the peace plan with that. And this is clear. This is the point that I kind of want to make. This is not a peace plan with the people of Afghanistan. This is a peace truce with the Taliban in Afghanistan. And so the reason that it's falling apart, I've had people who are very knowledgeable about this situation, Jamal, who happen to be Afghan expats who are furious about this because all of these negotiations have not included the duly elected government of Afghanistan, have not included the intellectuals, the intellectual elite in Afghanistan. In other words, they've left the Afghan people hanging in on this process. This is a deal just with the Taliban. And if the United States and the Taliban agree to a, quote, peace plan, what Afghan nationals worry about if the United States leaves, and I'm not saying they shouldn't leave, believe me, I mean, enough with Afghanistan, but the way in which they could leave could really be a disaster. So this is a disaster for Afghans. This is a disaster for the United States. And breaking news, we have another failed deal of a peace process going on.
And thank you for actually explaining this, because you're right. We haven't spent much time.
We should
And we
spend.
should actually have experts. And I should say also that I've been to Afghanistan. I've been to
You know
Kabul.
that situation.
I know this situation. And I can tell you one thing in short. We should have never gone into
Never.
Afghanistan. This is a lose-lose now situation where, okay, the damage has been done. How to withdraw from there, because nothing's going to happen. And as far as, a benefit for the United States,
It isn't there.
it's not there. So I want to spend the last 10 minutes talking about something that I've spent the entire day monitoring and watching, and which
What is
was
that?
interesting, which is basically the our candidates town hall, climate town hall.
Oh, yeah, I saw
Climate
it.
town
Yeah,
hall.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I've actually got into it, that I've actually listened to every single one of them, and I know
Wait a minute. You listened to
I've,
7 hours?
I've listened to every single one, and I know you care about the environment. And after all, we are in San Francisco, we are in California. This is an existential threat. It's
Absolutely.
one of the most important things, and I wanted to know their positions on the environment.
Summarize it.
I'll summarize it because I also graded them.
You did?
I did. I graded
got-
them,
who
so,
got-
so I want to go with my grading,
Okay,
and I
who-
will summarize it. And number one, let me say,
Who got an A?
anyone out there was 100%, 200% better than the Trump administration on the environment.
Okay.
So let me just kind of start by this, that saying, if anyone kind of adheres to what they were saying, we will be 100, 200% better off than what we have now as far as the environment and the policies of this administration. That's really rolling back the clock. So here are. This is what I saw, and I tried to be as neutral as possible.
Who's the A plus?
And so there is no A plus. It's A down to C.
Okay, who's A?
No one got an F, but A is Bernie Sanders.
Really?
Yeah, A is Bernie Sanders from A to Z on everything that he said, everything that he had plans for, everything. I hate when people put unrealistic goals. What goals? How can we shift our resources? How should we transition into driving electric cars? How should we transition into solar and so forth? So I would say Bernie Sanders, it's like, oh, wow, this is really great. If Bernie Sanders gets elected, he is an A.
Okay, I want to know.
A minus.
No, wait.
Close one.
No, before A minus, I want to know who got the low. Let's go to the extremes first. Who got the worst grade?
In my book,
Yeah.
Cory Booker.
Oh, Mr. Nuclear.
Yeah. In my book, he didn't make sense. A lot of the stuff is just like hot talk. Yeah, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do that.
He wasn't prepared.
The way I was looking at it, it's not like what you can promise. It's what you can deliver. Like if you are, and I looked at it in a period of 4 years. You know, the election's 4 years. I can't guarantee that you're going to be in office for 8 years. But what can you deliver to the American public in 4 years? Cory Booker got a C, so he's a passing grade. He's better than Donald Trump.
I don't know
but
if
he
C
got
is
a
passing.
C. I gave him a passing grade. Elizabeth Warren came as an A minus. She I think was very close her ideas to Bernie Sanders, but some stuff that she said I didn't like.
Like
and,
what?
And,
Like
and
anything in particular?
You know, well, she didn't have a very well-defined plan, like when Bernie Sanders talked, like, oh yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, we could do this. It's doable, that kind of thing. Then Beto O'Rourke, B+. Kamala Harris is B+. Joe Biden is a B.
Really?
Julian Castro is a B-. Pete Buttigieg, B-. Andrew Yang, B-.
Wow.
Amy Klobuchar, C+, and Cory Booker is a C.
You know, you're a tough grader, man.
So those were my grades, and I listened intently.
You
as
are a
just
tough
like an
grader.
average person
You are
who
a
knows
tough
something
grader.
about the environment and who can deliver. And this is very important because this is an important component of the next elections.
Well, I think that's a really good grading scheme, Jamal. I didn't listen to all 7 hours. I just read analyses of each of the candidates. The only, I think I would agree with you by and large. There's a little nuance in there. I know what Elizabeth Warren did was basically take Governor Inslee's, plan and basically adopted that as her plan, and whether or not, that was truly unique in her contribution. I could understand why you gave her an A minus. The advantage to Bernie Sanders, obviously, it's something that's doable, as you say, and I think that will appeal to a lot of voters. The biggest disappointment for me was, in fact, Joe Biden. I mean, this is a guy who's out in front. He's leading of all the Democratic candidates. He's the one that's in the lead by double digits over Elizabeth Warren as well as Bernie Sanders. So he's way ahead. And yet he gives us kind of a lukewarm plan.
One thing that really disappointed me in him is when he was asked by a professor, I think from Columbia University,
Yes.
who focuses on the environment, and said if he had anyone on his staff with the science, like a scientist about the environment, he couldn't name one. Like, you're the lead, and you don't have someone who's dedicated to bring you scientific input, not just like, and this was like, oh, what are you talking about? He really didn't bring that into kind of, but still he had other ideas. Even some stuff like Andrew Yang, he was impressive because he has a scientific mind. And, he talked about his father who has a PhD in physics.
Right.
But then I'm not that comfortable with his solution vis-a-vis, for example, going nuclear. As much as I think there are ways to kind of, make people safe.
Right.
But we're not there.
We're not there yet.
We've seen what's happening in Russia, and these nuclear reactors that we have in this country have been there since the 60s.
Right.
And so if you don't upgrade, and we have, God forbid, like something like 3 Mile Island, what are you going to do?
Well, I think that's I think you're a tough grader, Jamal, but I think that's fair. We only have a minute left, so I want to end with a report out of The Guardian. I want to go back to this ongoing disaster, world catastrophe in the world right now, which is what's happening in Yemen. Mm-hmm. A report came out by The Guardian this week suggesting that there's enough evidence right now that the United States, UK, and French may have colluded with UAE and Saudi Arabia in committing war crimes in Yemen. So, and it appears from everything that we've been able to get about what's happening in Yemen that there are war crimes.
Well, we know that you have war crimes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you name someone, you could name Saudi Arabia quickly because we've seen the effect of the bombs on children.
I think it's the UAE and Saudi Arabia, but we're now seeing the complicity, Jamal, of the European powers and the United States actively engaging with these war crimes that are being committed by Saudi Arabia and the UAE. It's really disturbing. This reporting is not anywhere. None of the candidates have been asked, the Democratic candidates.
They mention Syria, they don't mention Yemen, by the way.
No one mentions Yemen anymore.
Yeah.
This is a disaster. And no one is holding Saudi Arabia accountable. The Congress and the Senate actually passed something to not sell more arms to Saudi Arabia, but Donald Trump vetoed that. So I think we're going to spend a little more time as the shows in the future go, Jamal. We should spend a little bit more time both on Afghanistan and on Yemen.
And on this note, just I agree with you 100%, but we're running out of time. This is another show, another Arab Talk on KPOO San Francisco 89.5 FM. We encourage you to go to our website, ArabTalkRadio.com, for all of our archived videos and audios. They're there. Talk to you next week.
We'll see you next week.